When I found out she had been dead for 3 hours, I couldn't breathe because I had just seen her eyes move. Working night shifts in the ICU changes you. You see people at their most vulnerable, fighting battles you can't always understand. Most patients blur together after a while. Faces that come and go, stories that end quietly. But some patients, mid-70s, admitted with complications nobody could quite explain. She'd been with us for almost a month, and while other nurses saw just another elderly woman declining, I felt something different every time I stepped into her room. It started with her eyes. Linda never slept, not once during my shifts. She'd lie perfectly still, staring straight up at the white ceiling tiles with this laser focus that made my skin crawl. I was catching up on charts at the nurses' station when I heard it for the first time. A baby's cry. Soft, muffled, but unmistakably real. I froze, pen halfway through writing a medication note. My heart started racing because I knew, absolutely knew, there were no babies on our floor. Not a single infant. I glanced around, wondering if the sound was coming from the maternity ward upstairs, but it felt too close, too immediate. Soft. For someone who couldn't speak, couldn't respond to commands, her eyes held more life than anyone else in that wing. It was like she was trying to tell me something urgent, something I desperately needed to understand. Have you ever had someone look at you like they know a secret you don't? That's how Linda looked at me every single night. The feeling got worse as weeks passed. I glanced around, wondering if the sound was coming from the maternity ward upstairs. The crying stopped immediately, as if someone had flipped a switch. The silence that followed was so complete, it felt heavy, pressing against my eardrums. I stood there for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, waiting, listening. Nothing. But that wasn't the last time I heard it. Over the next few weeks it became a regular occurrence, always between 2 and 4 a.m. Sometimes I'd wave my hand above her face, testing if she'd track the movement. She wouldn't. Her focus stayed locked on that same spot, directly above her bed. Other nurses started avoiding her room. She gives me the creeps, my colleague Maria whispered during shift change. It's like she's watching something we can't see. That's exactly what I was afraid of. The night everything changed started like any other. I was making my 2 a.m. rounds when I noticed something different in Linda's room. The air felt heavier, colder. The usual hum of machines seemed muffled, like the room was holding its breath. Linda was in her typical position, flat on her back, eyes fixed on the ceiling, but something about her stillness felt more final. I checked her pulse. Steady. Breathing was normal. I was updating her chart when I felt it. That familiar sensation of being watched. I looked up to find Linda's eyes had shifted to me, but this time was different. This time there was urgency in her gaze, almost panic. Her lips parted slightly, like she was trying to speak. I leaned closer, my heart pounding. What is it, Linda? What are you trying to tell me? For the first time in a month, she blinked. That's when I saw it. A shadow. Not from any of the equipment, not from the hallway lights. This shadow was moving across the ceiling tiles directly above Linda's bed, shifting and changing shape like something was walking around up there. I blinked hard, convinced I was seeing. They say nurses develop a sixth sense about death. But nothing prepared me for the moment I felt him touch my shoulder 3 minutes after he'd already gone. Memorial General gets this strange quietness after midnight. Not peaceful, more like the whole building is holding its breath. I'm Lisa, been working night shifts here for 6 years, and I thought I'd seen everything. That Tuesday night felt different from the moment I clocked in. The air seemed thicker somehow, like a storm was coming, but never arrived. My sneakers squeaked against the polished floors as I made my final rounds. A room after room of sleeping patients, their steady breathing mixing with the soft hum of machines. Just one more stop before I could finally head home to my tiny apartment and collapse. Room 318. Mr. Peterson had been with us for almost a week, a sweet old man who reminded me of my grandfather. His daughter visited every day, bringing him cookies he couldn't eat and reading him stories from the newspaper. Tonight she'd gone home around 8, kissing his forehead and whispering, "See you tomorrow, Dad." I pushed open his door, expecting to find him sleeping like always. The heart monitor showed its usual steady rhythm. His breathing seemed normal, but something in the room felt heavy, like the air itself had weight. I checked his IV, adjusted his blanket, all the routine stuff. That's when it happened. This bone-deep cold started at the base of my neck and spread down my spine. Not like air conditioning or a draft. This was different. Personal. Intentional. Have you ever felt completely alone but somehow knew someone was watching you? The temperature in that room dropped at least 10 degrees in seconds. I could see my breath forming little clouds. As I exhaled, my hands started shaking, and not from the cold. Something was there with me, something that shouldn't have been. Then I felt it. Fingers, gentle but unmistakably real, pressing against my right shoulder blade. The touch was so cold it burned, like grabbing ice with bare hands. I spun around so fast I nearly knocked over the bedside table. Nothing. Just Mr. Peterson lying peacefully, and me standing there like an idiot, heart hammering against my ribs. But that spot on my shoulder, it stayed frozen, even when I left the room. Even when I drove home with the heater cranked up, that one spot felt like winter had settled into my bones and decided to stay. The next morning, I walked into work expecting everything to be normal. Maybe I'd tell Amy about my weird night, laugh it off over coffee. Instead, I found Dr. Martinez talking quietly with Mr. Peterson's daughter in the hallway. Her eyes were red and swollen. He passed very peacefully around 2:47 a.m. Dr. Martinez was saying, the night nurse said he went in his sleep. No pain, no struggle. 2:47 a.m. I checked my watch from memory. That was exactly when I'd felt those impossible fingers on my shoulder. What would you do if you realized the dead don't always leave quietly? 3 weeks have passed since that night. The cold spot on my shoulder finally faded, but I can't shake what happened. I've worked hundreds of night shifts since then. Been in rooms where patients have passed, but nothing like that has ever happened again. Maybe Mr. Peterson was saying goodbye. Maybe he needed someone to know he wasn't alone when he crossed over. Or maybe some part of him wasn't ready to let go just yet. His daughter sent a card thanking the night staff for taking such good care of him. She said he always felt safe here, that he'd told her the nurses were like angels watching over him. I keep that card in my locker. Sometimes during particularly quiet nights, I wonder if we're not the only ones doing the watching. I felt ridiculous, like some amateur ghost hunter, but I needed to know the truth. At 2:47 a.m., it started again, but this time, it was different. The crying wasn't just the sound of a baby, it was the sound of a mother's grief, deep and heartbroken and desperate, and through my phone speaker, I could hear something else. A woman's voice, barely a whisper. Where is she? Where's my hope? My hands.